very few books have the privilege of being called pioneering, primarily because they initiate a process or discussion that completely changes the way we've looked at things forever. Of course, when we talked about pioneering works, we always think about Charles Darwin's Origin of Species. Well, the book which we are going to review today is one such work in the field of biology, but rather we should say environments, because what happened after the publishing of the book is quite extraordinary. Hi, this is Gautam, and for this episode, we'll be looking at this book, Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. First published in the year 1962, the book is essentially a detailed description of the environmental impacts of pesticide usage in several parts of the United States. Now, when we say several parts, we are looking at the entire expanse because it is one of the largest countries in the world. So there are detailed description of a river on the eastern coast of USA. You're talking about the southwestern region of the state of Texas or the state of California, and also the Midwest. So several regions of United States of America in the 1940s and 50s are experiencing pesticide associated pollution, and this was the first book to bring them comprehensively documented into light and then initiate a big movement not just in the United States but across the globe. The book primarily can be divided into two large segments. There are two ways in which it deals with it. First is a proper explanation on the history of these, the reasons for the increase in the usage of pesticides and chemicals. She writes with such lyrical brilliance, talking about how the pesticides are actually a brainchild of World War II. So post 1945, a large number of chemical weapons which cannot, or let's just say chemicals which could not be used for weaponization. So what exactly do you do with them? So that kind of gave the impetus to the large pesticide industry in the United States of America. So the historical part, and then the second discussion about what exactly are the noticeable and documented consequences in several parts, and most importantly, the second part deals with that there were simpler methods of tackling these problems and why the problems were not tackled. Rachel Carson writes in simpler terms, trying to reduce the complexity of the chemical language. You do have mention of the chemical names, but the way she writes it is that she tries to make it much more simpler, and with numbers and with articles, she makes them much easier to convey to the reader. At the same time, when we talk about the different problems associated, it is not just one individual. For example, yes, we know that if you use a large number of pesticides rather than the prescribed amount, the environment gets polluted. But no, you need to look at this book in the concept of, when it was actually published. It's 1962. So the concepts like bioaccumulation, that the pesticides will continue to remain as pollutants and will get transferred through the ecosystem. Or let's take the invasive species that because of human migration in all parts of the world, it's possible for pests to move from one environment to the other, and they multiply enormously, which again presents a challenge for farmers. You have this one more segment, and you have this concept of biopesticides, that natural measures of pest control is much better compared to your conventional methods. So all these discussions, the technical part is also driven home, and you need to appreciate that this was much earlier, before we started seeing things. That's what makes his work convincingly great. The book is a classic not just for pointing things for the first time, but also because of the backlash it received. When it was first published, not many companies were, it's pretty obvious, were not happy. And even within scholars, it was dismissed that this woman is more emotional towards nature and ecosystem, and the work cannot be called as a scientific document, in spite of the fact that proper evidences are already quoted in the book. So it took several years for them to recognize and analyze and experiment that what has been written in this book is actually true. And only later, you can see environmental movements becoming very prominent in late 1980s. And only in the 1990s you would see that many environmental organizations prop up in different parts of the world. So, in that sense, if you look at the book published in 1962, it was revolutionary in every sense. So, if you want to start in a place where everything started, then this is the book you should go to. I hope you enjoy this modern classic. That's it for now.